there you go. And my only tip would be to the trans community is that maybe stop turning allies into enemies. It seems like that's what's happening in this. But again,
see, it's your fault. It's your fault. Oh, you pesky little trans community. Every single one of you, all of you trans individuals online, you just don't get it. Okay, it's ally or else. That's it. You get two choices. You either accept me, Jimmy Dore, and everything I believe whenever I want to believe it, and how I want to do business. Okay, or I mean, you've made an enemy. So it's ally or else. That's how this goes down.
And I don't know many trans people, so I don't even.
No. Yeah, I know y'all hate Dore, but we got to do a little bit of Dore because this is an interesting one. He's had a guest on multiple times.
Let's kick off our coverage today with the Patton Oswalt story. So I want to remind you, this is when the cult of the Democratic Party comes back to bite you, right? It happened. Remember, it happened to Sarah Silverman. We told you about this just 2 weeks ago. This is Joyanne Reed. She tweets out an article about the Governor DeSantis, who was the enemy of the Democrats. So they want to make it out like he's a Nazi. And he announced that he was starting his own National Guard force that's going to be answerable to him in Florida, so he could better help deal with natural disasters. And because when that happens, the federal government directs them. And so he's starting his own thing. And guess what? 23 other states have the exact same thing, including California and New York, the biggest blue states in the country. So she tweets this out and says, this is fascisti bananas. And so Sarah Silverman says, please read the article before you post this stuff. You're a news outlet. The truth doesn't matter. Because Sarah Silverman read the article and she knew that was garbage. Right. No, he's just doing something normal. Why are you pretending this guy's a fascist? Why are you misleading people? Which is what I do all day if you ended up watching establishment news. Kurt, you want to say something?
Well, what's funny is she assumed Joyanne Reed didn't read the article.
So here I was like, this face looks familiar to me. Kurt Metzger. And he's been on the show a lot. He's been popping up for Jimmy for a handful of different segments, whether they're spreading, vaccine hysteria or fears and stuff like that. But why does he keep referring to this individual? So I'm going to have to do a little digging.
She didn't know Joyanne also read the article. She's just a liar.
Yeah, she's just a liar. Yeah. So this is what happened to Sarah. So then they started calling Sarah a racist. And you would never say that stuff to a black person. The cult of the Democratic Party turned on you. You can't ever be seen defending the truth because they'll say you're defending DeSantis.
Right. Yes. It was. He is a old writer on the Amy Schumer show. Comedy Central's latest girl wonder, Amy Schumer, just had a satirical comedy show inside Amy Schumer, renewed for a second season. The show's drawn praise for its awkward, frank humor, etc., etc. But they have a staff writer, comedian Kurt Metzger, who allegedly harassed female bloggers online, stated in an interview that he was pro-rape, and claims to have committed domestic violence himself by criminally choking an ex. What will his employer do about it? Lindy West and Sadie Doyle, two outspoken critics of rape humor and comedy, are accusing Metzger of an online harassment campaign that started more than a month ago. Doyle is taking the evidence straight to Amy Schumer and Comedy Central. Doyle and West drew Metzger's attention after they voiced their opinions on the ongoing debate about rape jokes in the comedic community, a persistent issue since last year's Daniel Tosh controversy. The bloggers claim Metzger is targeting them and other feminists by making impersonator accounts on various social media platforms and filling them with obscene photoshops of the women he's mocking. In May, West debated the issue with comic Jim Norton on FX Totally Biased. Afterwards, the flood of hate mail she received inspired an essay and a video recording called "If Comedy Has No Lady Problem, Why Am I Getting So Many Death Threats?" Amongst the blog from the biased appearance, said West, was a barrage of comments from Kurt Metzger. If you want rape to go down, prosecute rape. It's not a fucking cultural solution. Normal people don't rape, sociopaths do. And the 1 in 4 rape statistic is bullshit. It's more like 1 in 14. The 1 in 4 is an old feminist lie that people just seem to accept for some reason. Not all feminists, a certain kind. Let's call them cunts. The people who trolled you, Lindy, were probably not comics. Rose, did you write that? What did you watch Kimmel Bell? Did you reach Lindy's open letter to white male comics? Do you think the people who send fake rape threats are the same as the comic? The reason Lindy got trolled is she's annoying and condescending and makes shitty posts. Like if Jamie Kilstein was a girl, she magically grew a penis. It would not make her understand funny better. This is not a battle of the sexes. It is unfunny people versus funny. And by the way, who gives a shit about a troll on YouTube? It's what they do. How is she at answering any one of my questions? You're a dick. Jokes. Doyle, who like West spoke to Daily Dot over email, drew Metzger's attention over an essay she wrote in May about her uncomfortable reaction to the comic Sam Morrill's stand-up routine. It featured multiple rape jokes, including one gag about having sex with an unconscious girlfriend. Doyle wrote a Morrill show. It wasn't just the occasional rape joke, it's the occasional self-congratulation for telling the rape joke that set it up. It was so exhausting. It was steady, relentless, predictable drone of a man whose punchline was a variation, I do not like women. You know, it's also like wild about all this, and I just, for the record, because we've had a lot of comics on the show, and we've had talks about comedy. I am still of the mind, and call Lance a free speech absolutist here, that you can make jokes about anything, including if you're going to make jokes about rape. The difference being is that what the joke is intended to do and how the joke is going to be received and how people react to the joke are completely separate things. Like freedom of speech doesn't include freedom of consequence. So yeah, if you're going to make shitty jokes whose punchline is effectively, hey, by the way, I find rape funny, or I hate women, and this is how I'm going to make the whole thing under the veil of a comedy routine, then that's just someone like me is going to come out and say you're just an incredibly shitty person and you sound like a misogynist. Doyle said Metzger has criticized the reaction for the routine on Facebook posts. They're no longer public. In a lengthy interview, comedian blog A Split Sider, Metzger spoke out against feminist critics of comedy, arguing the only valid criticism of a joke is that it's not funny. He mentioned Doyle's essay. Crunching transcript. So yeah, this is basically the person that Jimmy Dore is now popping up on the show a lot. He's setting up a fake social media account for me and Lindy West. This is apparently something he does to folks often. No, I'm not. I don't have time for that. They gave me a raise. Does that count? Metzger went on to disparage the commies involving in critiquing comedy. Listen, you fucking fuckface. I don't give listen, put me down for pro-rape as far as you're concerned. That's how much I don't give a shit about how you as a blogger feel. If you as a blogger have a problem, write down I'm pro-rape. That's how much you don't matter. Isn't it so selfish? Rape, because that's really become like you have to fight a feminist with that shit, which is insane, because rape, everybody gets raped, and men literally can't even talk about them. If you get raped as a man, not only is it hilarious, right? You know that they say rape culture, how that's like a thing here. We don't have that here, and if you think that, you're such a fucking privileged asshole to think that like you live in America and there's like a rape culture. You're a piece of shit. You'll probably never be raped here, you animal. Ooh, Jimmy. I hope no one, finds out about any of this. Anyways, this is Jimmy Dore's new, co-host, co-pilot.
Which means you're defending a Nazi. So that's why, and then she had to do this.
Own side. We can't even critique anyone in your own party without punishment. One of the hosts of The View was like, what hubris for Sarah Silverman to accuse a black woman of not reading. Oi, Jesus.
It's like I want to get to the Patton Oswalt part.
Picture with Dave Chappelle. And so now he has to apologize for that.
Okay. If I'm being honest with myself, if that's what Patton Oswalt got in trouble for, and if that's it, that's pretty ridiculous. I am definitely not for the 6 degrees of cancellation. I think if Patton Oswalt was best friends with Dave Chappelle, and this is coming from someone who is, here's my bias, Dave Chappelle was a huge inspiration for me, but I can very easily say out loud that I think his new comedy specials are not only mostly unfunny, but they are definitely punching down frequently, and not just towards the trans community, but many marginalized communities, in order to serve what he considers a higher messaging of that oftentimes white cis gay men won't recognize their privilege, especially in dealing with black members of the community. That is a salient point, one that needs to be talked about. You can do that without having to, again, vilify and marginalize the trans community. Anyone who comes out as a proud TERF, I'm sorry, but like you are directly in contradiction to people fighting for the rights of marginalized communities. Then if you are going to say you are pro-TERF, if you are on team TERF or whatever you want to say, then yes, you are positioning yourself on the other side of that battle, the battle to liberate all people. So that is unfortunate. But should Patton Oswalt be canceled for posting a picture with his friend? No. I was really upset when ContraPoints was in the middle of her like hardcore cancellation, not because of the cancellation itself. I think there's a lot of things that you could justifiably criticize ContraPoints for, especially platforming Buck Angel, etc. Fine. But for people who were getting mad at H Bomber Guy or Abigail and asking why won't they condemn ContraPoints? H Bomber Guy, why have you not made a video talking about how ContraPoints is like the greatest enemy to the trans community that's ever existed? And it's like it's H Bomber Guy's like friend. Like, Harris and Natalie are friends, IRL. Same thing with Abigail. Like, they're friends. Like, what do you want them? What do you want them to do outside of they can readily say, hey, I disagree with what she had done there. She shouldn't have platformed Buck Angel. She shouldn't have done this. But like, how is destroying Harris and destroying Abigail gonna get you justice for the actions of what someone else did? And in this case, how is taking down Patton Oswalt gonna get you justice for the crimes of Dave Chappelle. It's something I really don't enjoy. Here's the story. Patton Oswalt defends and apologizes for New Year's Eve photo with Dave Chappelle. Chappelle faced backlash in October after the debut of the Netflix special Disclosure, blah, blah, blah. Comedian Patton Oswalt simultaneously apologized for and defended his decision to post a photo of himself and his longtime friend Dave Chappelle, despite controversy over Chappelle's views on transgender rights and identity. Oswalt posted several photos Saturday on Twitter and Instagram of himself and Chappelle on New Year's Eve. He wrote on Instagram that he had finished a set in Seattle when he got a text from Chappelle. Come over to the arena he's performing in next door and do a guest set. Why not? I waved goodbye to this hell year with a genius I started comedy with 34 years ago. He works an arena like he's talking to one person and charming their skin off. Anyways, I ended the year with a real friend and a deep laugh. Can't ask for much more. I see absolutely nothing controversial there. Nothing. I mean, like, they're friends. They're in comedy together. You can be mad at Dave Chappelle without being like, I have to cancel every single person that Dave Chappelle ever knew, right? Comments on Twitter were more critical. As a trans person and fan of your work, this is extremely disappointing. You've been open about your journey towards more empathetic comedy, so I ask you, please think about how this makes trans people feel. Like, he could have, maybe that's what he should have done then. He should have added something to it to the effect of like, I disagree wholeheartedly with Dave Chappelle and his views on the, trans community and his, belittling of the trans community. And I'm anti-Team TERF at the same time. This is one of my oldest friends. We've been working together 34 years, and I wanted to see him on New Year's, and this is how it went. The controversy sparked a walkout on Netflix. Chappelle said later they were willing to meet. Yeah, did he meet? Oswald posted a long response on Instagram accompanied by the photo of him writing with a notepad. I saw a friend I hadn't seen in a long time this New Year's Eve. We've known each other since we were teens. Holy shit. He's a fellow comedian, the funniest I've ever met. I wanted to post a picture and a story, so I did. The friend is Dave Chappelle. He's reinforced and refined ideas. Take a look at who's settled about race and theory, life on planet Earth. Spun them around with a phrase and a punchline. But we also 100% disagree about transgender rights and representation. I support trans people's rights. Anyone's rights to live safely in the world as their fullest selves. For all the things he's helped me evolve on, I'll always disagree with where he stands now on transgender issues. I think that is a great thing to say that. Oswald added that he doesn't believe Chappelle is done learning, calling his friend a seeker. He also wrote that he wonders. I mean, something nice would be actually, Oswald, please talk to Dave. If y'all are this close, maybe you could be the one that turns him around on this issue, because it would be great to have such a talent and a voice as Dave Chappelle come out and be like, I was wrong. Instead of like doubling down, tripling down, quadrupling down. I'm sorry, truly sorry that I didn't consider the hurt that this would cause or the depth of that hurt. It's so easy to think of someone else's growth and miss the need for yourself. Gonna keep trying. Jimmy, where's the controversy here? What, did he get cucked by the internet? Did Twitter cuck him because he had to clarify statement? These are totally reasonable. This is exactly what I would, like, this played out exactly how I was like, you know what, I would, if this were me, this is how I think it should have been done. I mean, this is all I could really ask for. It's too bad he didn't do it. It's like, oh, he did it. Oh, okay. And he worded it very, very well. This is like, it's a delicate issue, and there you have it. I think the thing Dave said were bad enough that to praise him without addressing this all is kind of disappointing, Olive says. Well, how do you feel about his follow-up? Or to say something like that? It certainly was big news. I'll grant you that. But I don't think, like, Patton Oswalt or whatever Jimmy's about. Okay, hold on. I don't know what Jimmy's about to say. I'm not going to strawman Jimmy here. Okay, I'm going to let Jimmy go. Here we go.
That's all he did. Did he take a picture with a war criminal like Joe Biden? No. Did he take a picture with someone who imprisoned kids for truancy like Kamala Harris? No. Did he take a picture with a news anchor that repeats propaganda? No. He took a picture with his buddy who's been a comedian for 34 years. And by the way, sells out theaters. 17,000 people went to see Dave Chappelle. And so he tweeted that out. Hey, look. Holy shit. They came at him. And what did he do? He had to apologize. He had to apologize for tweeting out a picture with his black friend.
He didn't have to with his black friend. Jimmy Dore. Hey, come on. We all have one. Do I have to apologize when I take pictures with my black friend? Everyone has one. I saw a friend I hadn't seen in a long time on New Year's Eve. We know each other, blah, blah, blah. We also agree. I think this is just a very fair clarification. I don't see anything horrible about this. This is not like condemnation. Why can't human beings, especially men, be open about feelings and also admit when they want to add things, or like if they've done something wrong, or delete tweets. Why is that like a sign of weakness? Why is it like Patton is like, hey, by the way, everybody, I realize the harm this caused and why this hurt people. I still think, he's one of my oldest and best friends. I'm going to still be friends with him, but I strongly disagree with him, and here's why he's wrong on this issue. Both can be true at the same time. I will ideally try and change his mind in the future, but like, goddamn.
You saw somebody put I say that other one where somebody pointed out that he had to have someone take a picture of him apologizing. Like, hey, get a picture of me looking sorry. Well,
he does look sorry.
Yeah.
Now, again, just like I said about Sarah Silverman, I was once very friendly with Sarah Silverman. I don't know if you would say we were friends. We were friendly for sure.
Is this another case of like someone became famous and doesn't like answer his calls or come on the show anymore? And he's like, yeah, AOC never comes on my show. That's why she's the worst.
And she was always very nice to me, and her heart always seemed to be in the right place. Even when she was wagging her finger at Bernie supporters and telling us that we were ridiculous, I still understood why she was doing it. And I thought her heart, even though she was wrong in that instance, was, she thought she was doing the right thing. And she was a Bernie supporter. So I have to say the same thing about Patton Oswalt. No, I don't know too much about his politics lately, but Patton Oswalt and I were friends. Again, friendly friends. I don't know what he gave me a nice blurb for my book. That was very nice of him to do, and I loved his book.
Scooby.
I read his book and couldn't put it down, actually. And so I've always been a fan of his comedy. I don't see all of his movies and TV shows. I don't watch TV shows or movies much, but I know.
Chad is saying this is just Oswald seems like a good dude. This is reinforcing my respect for Patton. Yeah. I've always liked Patton. Patton always seemed just kind of like I'd heard him on far left podcasts before, so I was surprised to see that. He's an incredible, proud and out like uber nerd in the best way possible. Like, I think nerds who are obsessed with like things, but not obsessed in the way that like people are like, oh my god, you're such a nerd, why do you love comic books so much? But like, it actually brings them joy. And then it's very bizarre in the modern age to kind of shame people for like loving something so much that brings them so much happiness. And like, it's just like and just because it's considered childish, like, he's always been very, very like, he just seemed like a very nice person. And I think this is like, what more can you ask for? And then why do you have to shame him is the thing after the fact. Like, now it's going to be like Jimmy Dore, like, you see what the liberal media makes you do? They cancel culture you, and then you have to do penance and look sad.
His comedy, and I know him as a person, he's a great guy. And so now he committed the sin of admitting to being friends with Dave Chappelle. And so he had to write this apology, and I want to read it to you. He said, saw a friend I hadn't seen in a long time, fellow comedian,
I already read this.
Friend, about sports trans rights. Point he makes. What makes me sad about that is that I'm pretty sure Dave Chappelle 100% supports trans rights.
What are you talking about? What the fuck? What is the issue? I don't even understand what's going on. Why would anyone be upset by any of the things that he said? He literally said, I'm Team TERF. The fuck are you talking? Do you even know what these words mean? Like, why? Oh, classic Jimmy. Here we go.
I don't think he would say, no, we should discriminate against trans people. Have you ever heard him say that, Kurt?
No, but
what do you think being a TERF does by definition? Like, TERFs, by the very existence of what they espouse to believe, are discriminating against the trans community. It's in the name. It's a description.
But if you don't go along with every little thing,
so right. So this is what
says, yeah.
This is what
it's not even every little thing. It's not like someone was like, "Oh, Dave Chappelle refuses to use, my neo pronouns." Like, every single day, I come to Dave Chappelle and he doesn't say Z or Zer to me, and I'm very upset with Dave Chappelle. No, numerous specials in which the punchline was either condescending to trans people, reinforcing negative stereotypes towards trans people, just blatantly saying that we have to stand up for transphobes like J.K. Rowling, and then saying that I am Team TERF. Like, this, it's not like they were just, he didn't toe the line, the trans ideology has just gone so out of control, and they demand so much of people, and now, they're just like making up genders every day, and that if I don't know it, I'm a bigot instantaneously, or something to that effect. No, like, this one is just, it's very clearly on the other side of the argument. This is not like a subtle, he screwed up once and now we're all going after him kind of thing. Like, if Dave Chappelle cannot be an example of someone who is clearly advocating for things that are going to be against or marginalize the trans community, then who can? Come on.
Glenn Greenwald, the point he makes, Glenn Greenwald, a Pulitzer Prize winning journalist, he makes
and like Olive said, lying and weaponizing a trans woman's suicide for his own ends, like just very despicable behavior at the very end too. Yeah, using her as a shield, just the same way Jimmy is like trying to do this weird liberal id poll thing. Like his black friend can't hang out with his black friend because of course the woke social justice warriors cancel you. They shouldn't because he's black, but anyways, you know, that's the exact same thing Dave Chappelle was doing when he was talking about how there was a prominent trans comedian who went to his shows, and then as she was attending the shows, he was like, she wasn't that great, she bombed, but I put her on anyway, and she was absolutely hilarious. The same individual ended up committing suicide, was a large part of the end of the closer, like maybe the last 30 minutes, telling what he considers, and a lot of like people who were okay with that special being like, oh, it was actually a very, like, it was a very touching story. It was actually beautiful. It was very pro-trans at the end of the day, you know, how he talked about her. And then when you actually like listen to the roommates, like read the texts from the roommates of this individual and like what was actually going on behind the scenes, like there's two completely separate stories being told. And even if this wasn't the case, even if they were just the greatest of besties and all that kind of stuff, and it was just a wonderful friendship that blossomed throughout all of this, that doesn't mean that you should utilize someone's suicide, regardless of who they are, in order to further and defend yourself. Like that is kind of despicable behavior.
Point that if I agree with your agenda 97%, but I have a quibble with 3% of it, that doesn't make me an enemy. That makes me an ally that we have small disagreements with. But if you don't agree with them 1,000%, you're now an enemy, which is a dumb way to...
Are you kidding me? How fucking condescending this is. You hear this, trans people? Okay? I am your ally. So saith me, Jimmy Dore. So shut the fuck up and listen, okay? I'm your ally. We only disagree on 3% of stuff. I agree on the vast majority of the rest of it, despite the fact that I think that, you know, Dave Chappelle's completely fine and he didn't do anything wrong. But anyways, I'm your ally. So just accept it.
Do it. Because you're now turning allies into enemies, which is what they tried to do with Patton. And
they weren't trying to turn him into an enemy. Sorry, enemy. They weren't trying to do that. That was not what they were trying to do there. They were calling out something. Okay. Personally, for me, do I think it's like the right target? No, I would target Dave Chappelle. I would target, you know, Netflix, you know, execs who still consider that, like, you know, this is completely fine, above board, or whatever you have. Like that would be something that I would say would, you know, bear more fruit than going after Patton Oswalt for being friends with Dave Chappelle or posting pictures with him. That being said, that is not the reason why. Okay. It was not because they have, oh, it's a 3% disagreement, we now have to actively turn Patton Oswalt into the next TERF. Let's create another TERF on the go. It's like, it's people like this who don't understand what they're talking about and think that they're allies when they're not. I'm a proud ally of the trans community. I agree with 97% of everything they say. Absolutely. And or else.
Again, as far as I'm pretty sure Dave Chappelle would not be for discriminating against trans people. In fact, I've never heard him say it. I only saw his one special. Maybe he said it.
Of course. Of fucking course. I have absolutely no idea. I don't think he's ever discriminated. I've only watched one of his specials, but what I've heard, others have told me. Oh my God. Well, if you've only watched one, which one? Did you watch one of the ones before Netflix existed? Are you talking about Killing Them Softly or something? Are you talking about like Death Comedy Jam, some of his fucking specials on that? Or are you talking about one of the new Netflix specials? Are you talking about the first one? Because the first one, all encompassing, isn't the worst of all of them. I mean, it does have some yikesy bits. It does have this whole routine he does where he talks about how a trans woman like pulls her dick out and throws it into the office table. And that's the punchline. Like, it's not actually subversive. It's not actually like something that actually subverts like mechanisms of power or structures of power. It's just like making fun of trans people by furthering stereotypes. It's like, yeah, this is hilarious because it's a woman with a penis. That's the punchline. Yeah, that was kind of like, whoa, what the fuck? I remember sitting there and being like, what the fuck? Because this is like one of my greatest idols. But I was still like, okay, I'd say like 80% of the special. Okay, now 70% is still pretty good and funny. Maybe I'll just hope the next one's not as bad. But then the next one was even worse. And then by the time you get to the closer, he just full on goes like Team TERF. Like, he actually says that. Classic Jimmy Dore talking about shit that he knows nothing about before even having watched it.
Another special, I didn't see it.
No, he said nothing like that. He didn't accept the basic premise. I guess, you know.
I don't think he says they shouldn't be married.
Have you not seen it either, Rape Joke Man? Have you also not watched it? Is this two men who have not seen the special talking about it, fucking, and they're gonna put that video on YouTube?
He says they shouldn't be allowed to employment or should be discriminated against in housing or lending or anything, right?
But if you criticize any part of it, this is the argument. You're basically killing people by not accepting every little thing that...
I never heard him advocating killing black PPA.
PPL? Oh, I'm glad I said PPL. Now we'll never truly know what that meant. Black Cat Lex, thank you so much for the tier 2. Appreciate that. This is fucking absolutely ridiculous. I can't believe this. Like, if you haven't even seen the specials, you don't know what he's advocating for. I doubt either of you even know what a TERF is. Then, like, how are you standing here saying that, like, Dave Chappelle is in fact not transphobic? You haven't even heard the complaints. You're not listening to the other side. And then on top of that, you're calling yourselves allies. On top of that, it's like, hey, come on. If I agree with you, you know, on 97% of what we talk about, 3% we disagree on, I am your ally. Come on. Or else.
Activist said. And, you know, also, for the record, remember Chappelle's trans friend that ended up committing suicide after being bullied by the trans community online?
Is that so? How
much do you know about that? How much do you know about that outside of what you've read on social media in your own circles? Because that sounds to be the extent of it. That sounds to be the extent of your knowledge of this topic. That you've just heard that, and then you haven't even watched the special, so you don't even know that. That's not a defense. There's no such thing as I'm not a racist because I have a black friend. And then it doesn't go further. I'm not a racist because I have a black friend who committed suicide. You do not get to use that as a shield to mask over like fucking aggressive transphobia. I'm sorry, but doing this whole like he actually goes to the part of saying like he does the biological essentialism in the last special, in the closer. He absolutely does. After saying that he's Team TERF, he says, all I know is that every single person here came from a woman. And then gets a round of applause, and then a round of applause, and then a round of digital applause, or whatever you want to call everyone who's behind the screens. That is doing the biological essentialism argument. Doing that, well, there's biological females, and only, you know, women have ever given birth, and this is how it is, blah, blah, blah. Like, this shit is the actual rhetoric that transphobes use that further marginalizes trans people. Like, there's periods in time when people could have been, say, okay with members of the gay community, while at the same time also being okay with them being oppressed, right? And also being like, well, I'm okay, like, I am pro-trans rights, but I only go as far as the bathroom. I am pro-trans rights, but I only go as far as sports. I'm pro-trans rights, but stay the fuck away from kids. If you even suggest giving kids anything that I do not agree with medically, then hey, we have a problem. It's like, well, first off, you're not a doctor, so you don't know the first thing about this. And if you consider this to be child abuse, please go forward and research it. Please, right? But that doesn't allow you to have, like, you don't get a get out of transphobia free card because you have a trans friend.
He goes on, for all the things he's helped me evolve on, I'll always disagree with where he stands now on transgender issues. I wish he would have put what it was that he disagreed with him on, because I don't know what it is. I'm not trying to play dumb. I actually am dumb. I don't fucking know what exactly.
Then why are you reporting on this? Why are you doing a segment on this? If you know nothing, you can't do a segment and get out of the fact that you had done zero research and have no idea, that you're talking out of your fucking ass, and then stand there and be like, I genuinely have no idea what I'm talking about. But why is everyone so upset? That's what I want to talk about. Why is everyone so, but I have no idea what the fuck this is about. The fuck, don't do this. Don't talk about this. Don't talk about these issues.
He disagrees with.
I don't think he knows either. I think he knows people were mad at him and he has to say
But this is what, I mean, the backlash. You took a picture. You think he took a picture with...
I don't think he knows either. No, I'm pretty sure Patton knows. I'm pretty sure if Patton has been friends since they were kids, since they were teenagers with Dave Chappelle, he has watched all of his new specials. And I'm sure at a point or two, if Patton is like, you know, truly on the right side of history when it comes to these trans issues, was like, oh, fuck, that sucks. Just like every other fan of Dave Chappelle is like, this sucks, this sucks, this sucks so much. You've spent your whole career in stand-up comedy speaking truth to power, you know, speaking to those who hold the levers of power over those who are marginalized. And now you are reinforcing power structures through your comedy. That is what is happening here. And it sucks because you're also using it. I mean, you threw trans people under the bus in order to make a very salient point, which is that cis, white, gay people often don't even recognize their privilege. They oftentimes won't even recognize that there are still systemic racism because, like, well, I was oppressed at one point in my life for being homosexual. So at the end of the day, you know, I have truly suffered. I have the highest forms of oppression. Like, that is a point that he was making in those specials. That is a good one that needs to be talked about, that people should hear. But you shouldn't make that at the expense of trans people. You don't have to, is the worst part of all this. You could still make that same point and not have to throw trans people under the bus.
Duke or Ted Bundy.
Well, I like how your friend of 34 years, you're supposed to disown them on the whims of Twitter.
Yes. Or because you disagree with them about politics.
Yeah.
So here he goes for all the things he's helped.
He didn't disown him. He left the picture up. As far as I understand, he made this letter afterwards to clarify for people who were understandably upset by that photo.
me evolve on. I'll always disagree with where he stands now on transgender issues, but I also don't believe a seeker like him is done evolving, learning. You know, someone that long, see the struggles and changes, it's impossible to cut them off.
Such a reasonable letter.
You know someone that long, see the struggles and changes, it's impossible to cut them off. Yeah, like people in my family. You're not supposed to cut people out of your family because they voted for Trump. Or do you? Maybe you do that.
No one's
I don't do that. That's what Glenn Greenwald said. If your friendship was based on politics, it was never a friendship in the first place. So, you know someone that long, see the struggle. It's impossible not to be hopeful and open and cheer them on. Also, I've been carrying a lot of guilt about friends I've cut off who had views with which I couldn't agree or changed in ways I couldn't live with. Now, before Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump,
right,
all those people cheered me on. They all wanted to come on my show. They all said nice things about me. Patton Oswalt gave me one of the greatest blurbs from my book. Can you give me the book? I'll read it. And I would go to these comedy festivals and we would all have big laughs together. And I was doing the politics. I had the show on Lefty KPFK, which is way left of NPR, or used to be when I was on it. And here's the
Adelaide High says, wait, I can't cut someone out of my family if they attack me for being trans. Is that the argument Jimmy is making? Yep.
He wrote, he said, Jimmy Dore, of course, this is great for me. It's just like me bragging, but I'm going to do it anyway. Jimmy Dore is.
Cool. I really want to see this moment where you inflate your ego.
Do not come. Do not come.
Apology now. Because I become persona non grata in those same circles.
Non grata.
Because I wouldn't vote for Hillary Clinton and I voted for Jill Stein. And then I wouldn't go along with Russiagate. And I told the truth that the mainstream media and the intelligence community is lying to you about it. Same thing with Syria.
So honorable.
And that was that. I was a big Bernie supporter. Then I was a Tulsi supporter. And that was stuff that you can't do. And so when he says, I've been carrying a lot of guilt about friends I've cut off who had views with which I couldn't agree, I wonder if I'm one of them. Now, again, I haven't been circulating.
Why is everything always about Jimmy? Does a story on Sarah Silverman. You know, we used to be really good friends back in the day. We're not as good friends anymore. I don't really know what happened there. Hey, does a story on Patton Oswalt. He's like, I wonder if I was one of the people he kicked out. You know, maybe I'm considered not. Maybe. Hey, maybe Jimmy. Who knows?
In the comedy circles like I normally would for the last 5-6 years. So maybe I'm not. But I know I'm not on his Halloween card list anymore, which hurts my feelings. Which does hurt my feelings. So I don't know.
That's what it always comes down to, eh? Fuck, if you want to be an enemy of Jimmy Dore's for life, just fucking stop coming on the show or associating with him or sending him Christmas cards. That's enough. That's all it takes.
Oh, I never got a Halloween card.
Oh, see, I was more important. I knew I was. I always knew I was more important. Thank you, Kurt, for confirming that. But now you and I are of similar importance. So anyway, he says, sometimes I wonder, did I and others cutting them off make them dig their heels in deeper, fuel their ignorance with nitro boost of resentment and spite? I'm an LGBTQ ally. I'm a loyal friend. There's friction in those traits that I need to reconcile myself. He means the friction between him being friends with Dave Chappelle and being an ally of the LGBTQ community. There's friction in those traits that I need to reconcile myself and not let cause feels of betrayal in anyone else. And I'm sorry, truly sorry, that I didn't consider the hurt this would cause or the depth of that hurt. He took a picture with Dave Chappelle. You know, and now he's got to apologize about the depth of the hurt he caused.
Can you imagine?
That's nuts balls.
Yeah,
and I'm not saying Pat's nuts balls. I'm saying it's nuts balls that we live in this culture that he has to do that. It's nuts balls that he has to do that. That he feels that he has to do that. It's crazy culture that we're living in right now, and they'll come after anybody for anything at any time. Don't you?
Here comes the fear mongering, but like. Again, on a topic that he knows nothing about, but by his own admission, in this segment, he has no idea what the fuck he's talking about. He has not seen the Dave Chappelle special. He doesn't know why people were angry at Dave Chappelle. He doesn't know if Patton Oswalt has watched it. He has no idea what the jokes were about. He doesn't know if they're transphobic, but he is assuming with complete certainty that they were not, and that he's an ally, and that they only disagree on 3% of things, and you know, the trans community just has to accept it and become better allies of the cis community. That's what this comes down to. To all members of the trans community, you have to be better allies to the cis community. I mean, I'm sorry, you just haven't been as good at allies, and it's at 3%. 3% is the only place where disagreements come at. And so, you know, I'm hoping you can just you can be more than allies. You can be accomplices to the cis.
That's what a cult does. You understand that, right? That's what a cult does. You're not allowed to disagree with them 1%. Then you're outside the group. That's what a cult does, and that's what the Democratic Party is. They're a goddamn cult.
How are the Democrats involved in this? Like, none of this story has anything to do with Hillary Clinton, the Democrats, or you, Jimmy. None of this has anything to do. Somehow you've made it all about yourself again.
And that's why Sarah Silverman had to do that, and that's why Patton Oswalt has to do this.
Goddamn Democrats.
You see they all... sorry.
Go ahead.
This is why we don't have Medicare for all, you know? This is why the forever wars will never end. This is why the military-industrial complex, or imperialism, U.S. imperialism, will not cease. It all comes from here.
They all believe like the best about their party, no matter what.
No matter what.
When he goes the depth of the hurt I caused, you should meet. And by the way, I like Patton a lot. Like
Me too.
I can't stand that he could even let this like himself get. But it's partially social media addiction, which makes you get a warped idea of what is hurtful and what's not.
Social media.
And then the idea, like, man, this is my friend 34 years. You don't tell me who I can take a picture with.
No
like,
shit.
That's the first thing you should say. This should be, hey, if you don't like it, go screw yourself. Should be the message, honestly. And people get warped. I don't know. It just warps people being on social media like that. And then also, there's the Hollywood thing of where you don't really realize how bad your own side is, which is what happened with Sarah.
That is right. Hey, your own side are liars, and they're tribal.
Ugh.
And if you go against someone who's in their tribe, they'll come at you, even if you're telling the truth. That's what Sarah learned. And I don't know what Patton, if there's a lesson for him to learn. Well, here's the lesson he says. He says, I've been messaging a lot on Instagram today, and the back and forth has really helped guide me into the writing of this. I naively deleted a lot of posts in the comment thread, critical ones from LGBTQ writers and shitposts.
Fucking, why are you shaming people for growth? Okay, this is something like this year. All right, we're gonna talk about things. We're gonna talk about positive masculinity, and I'm talking about all forms of masculinity, whether it is trans masculinity, whether it is cis masculinity, but all forms of masculinity. Do not be embarrassed about growing as a person. Every single one of us should be doing that constantly. This is evolution, and you're taking a part in it right now. Okay. Becoming the best version of yourself, all that self-help guru shit, yes, we're going to buy into all of it. We're going to clean up our rooms simultaneously, and we're going to rise as better human beings. But please, on a serious note, don't be embarrassed about being a better person. No one should ever be. Like, how many times, okay, there's a really good Innuendo Studios video on this. If you go to a party and you walk up to a friend at the party, and all of a sudden you're having a conversation, and you're talking, and that friend, you offer them a beer, and like, oh no thanks, I don't drink. Your thought is going to go to a little bit of self-consciousness, because all of a sudden, even though he hasn't implied this, it makes you feel, well, I drink. Is something wrong with drinking? And then you're like, hey, you know what? Do you want a burger? How about a nice burger? And all of a sudden that person is like, no, sorry, I don't eat burgers. I don't eat meat. I'm a vegan. And then, again, there was nothing in that statement that is going to be contrary to how you believe, your world beliefs, anything like that. But at that very moment, suddenly you're like, oh shit. I eat meat. I guess I'm a worse person than you. Is that what you're implying? What's going on here? It's that subtle little, like, people seem to become very self-conscious, even if they're not being directly attacked for something or a belief they're espousing. So the idea of coming forward and being like, hey, by the way, everybody, I was wrong about X, which is completely normal and human. Every single human being is going to be wrong, not only once in life, but throughout the totality of their life, okay? We're not, even Wikipedia is wrong. I can't even say that. We're not this infallible super being of like the 90,000 IQ that has the giant head. I forget the name of the creator of all life on Earth, or whatever they're supposed to be called. But anyways, we're not going to be like that. We're gonna be fallible. We're gonna fuck up. We're gonna say things and do things that are going to be wrong and or should be corrected. There's nothing wrong with learning and growing and being like, hey, I was wrong about this. I've come a long way, and now I'm very pleased to announce that I believe in blank. That fucking less than this should be a thing to be shamed. This should be a thing to be people are fucking easy clapping, take pride in. Hell yeah. Hell yeah. You know how much joy it would bring me in a couple months if all of a sudden Dave Chappelle came out and he's like, guess what, everyone? I was completely wrong. I've spoken to a bunch of members of the trans community. I am no longer Team TERF. I think TERFs are actually a hate group, to be totally honest, by definition. They are trying to marginalize people, and the vast majority of science on this issue seems to be overwhelmingly on the side of the trans community. I deeply apologize for my offensive remarks, and I'm going to work towards bettering the world. I would not be the person who's like, but is he telling the truth? Seems like he's been cucked by social media. Looks like the social justice warriors got to Dave Chappelle. I'd be like, holy fuck yes, this is a massive victory. This is an amazing thing. Please go forward and use your massive platform, talent, skill, everything you have to go forth and spread that word. It would be a fucking beautiful thing. And he'd be doing a special. There would be a Jimmy Dore. Oh, you see this? See that Dave Chappelle has been cucked by Twitter, by the mobs, all of them. You see this? It would sound like, take that clip and you'll be able to play it verbatim. If that ever happens, it'll be the literal, exactly the pitch, the cadence, how he sounds. It'll be exactly like that.
Turf anti-trans orcs looking for clicks and giggles. I wanted a nice comment thread about the pic with my friend. Ugh, so easy to think someone else needs growth and you can need in yourself.
Gross.
Gonna keep.
He's not wrong.
He's not wrong at all. And so again, this is not critical of Patton Oswalt. This is to show how crazy the culture is. That a comedian like Patton Oswalt, all he has to do is take a picture. That's how I felt when I interviewed that Boogaloo boy. All I did was interview him. They act like I joined the frickin' Boogaloo.
No, the criticism of you, Jimmy, is you never do any fucking research into anything you talk about. You platformed a fucking Boogaloo boy, and you just talked to him as if he was just like this woke leftist militant who just wants to, like, you know, liberate all of us from our struggles. That's not the case. If you had done, again, 2 seconds of research, you'd realize the Boogalooids have a lot of ties to right-wing fascist militias. That the origins of the Boogaloo boys, for example, the writing that they base a lot of the shit on is fucking alt-right text. The idea that it just started out of a meme is true, but that's just to have plausible deniability for the more racist factions of the Boogaloo boys who were trying to provoke a civil war, a race war in the United States. That shit is very fucked up and dangerous. So just bringing one on the show and then after the fact being like, well, I had no idea who they were, but people were like condemning me for doing that. It's because you didn't do any fucking research before you talked to these individuals. It's because you admit that you don't know what you're talking about. You did in this segment, in the middle of the segment, this 20-minute segment that you voted. How many upvotes and views does this have? This has 144,000 views. 8,800 people have liked this in a segment that you don't know what you're talking about. You admitted it like around this mark. You have no idea. That's the fucking problem.
Guy.
Yeah.
Who has no influence of power.
Who has no power, no influence. All I did was interview him, and everybody made me out like I was David Duke. No, I'm interviewing someone. That's what, you know how that's what you're supposed to do.
Sure. Did you ask him any questions about anything that anyone has any concerns about related to the Boogaloo boys? Or did you do the whole thing as a PR puff piece? I think it was the second one because I watched it, Jimmy. The whole thing is like, I don't know. Everyone keeps saying that apparently I'm supposed to hate you and hate these right-wing militias. And yet when I talk to you, it sounds like you're pro-gay rights. You are for responsible gun ownership. You're against the corporate elites that control everything. Like it sounds like we're on the same team. What more friendships can we create right now? That's what the whole thing was. That's why you were criticized for it. Fucking, you got called out by Rod Weber on like the interview you did with him, the one that you refused to post for a really long time because it was embarrassing for you, of knowing nothing about the organization, like virtually nothing.
Didn't a reporter interview Osama bin Laden?
Of course, Mike Wallace.
How could you platform him?
Mike Wallace interviewed the Ayatollah Khomeini. They, of course, people interview.
Actually, comparing himself to Mike Wallace right now. And again, in those examples, what is he doing as a journalist? Because you yourself, you admit you're not a journalist. You're a comedian, right? So, as a journalist in those cases, what are they doing? What are they trying to get from that conversation? What were you doing? What were you doing in your interview with the Boogaloo boy? Like, you might as well have just called the whole segment friendship. That was what the entire thing was based around, was trying to dispel all these rumors that people have made up about him or about the organization. You were trying to like soften their image, trying to say, oh, they're actually just like us, you know, they hate the Democrats just like I do. That's like a check mark for me.
Manson. You know what I mean? People interviewed Phil Donahue. I grew up on him interviewing David Duke, Nazis. I grew up with Nazis in Chicago marching every year, and they were always being interviewed.
Somebody just texted me. They just did the math on this. Less than 4% of the people who liked this photo commented on the photo. Not all of them are negative, but that means he responded to this based on less than 4% of people complaining.
Oh,
that's
really?
Like yeah. And the other thing is the friction is between the traits of being Chappelle's friend and still.
Does that mean Does that mean that the stats you just revealed show that the overwhelming majority of the quote-unquote woke Twitter mob was not actually condemning Patton Oswalt, and that maybe a lot of this growth was of his own volition, that maybe he was doing it himself? Because, I don't know, human beings do that sometimes. We're good sometimes. We actually learn and improve. That this whole idea of a giant, I don't know, trans ideology fucking based Twitter mob destroying you wasn't true at all. Damn, what a weird way to end your segment. What a weird thing to reveal. Probably because neither of you understand why it's pertinent, but here we are.
Wanting to work in the industry.
So there you go. And my only tip would be to the trans community is that maybe...
Oh, shit. Oh, hold on. Trans community, are you ready? Jimmy Dore has a tip for you, okay? Here. It's not going to be paternalistic. It's not going to be condescending. Jimmy Dore just has some frank advice, you know, from a very rich, famous cis comedian to the trans community. Let's hear what it is. All right, let's rewind this. Get ready. Okay, from on high, Jimmy Dore would now like to speak directly to the trans community.
There you go. And my only tip would be to the trans community is that maybe stop turning allies into enemies. It seems like that's what's happening in this. But again,
see, it's your fault. It's your fault. Oh, you pesky little trans community. Every single one of you, all of you trans individuals online, you just don't get it. Okay, it's ally or else. That's it. You get two choices. You either accept me, Jimmy Dore, and everything I believe whenever I want to believe it, and how I want to do business. Okay, or I mean, you've made an enemy. So it's ally or else. That's how this goes down.
I don't know many trans people, so I don't even.
No shit. Damn, Jimmy, you can't even drop "I have a trans friend" as your defense in this one. It's all right. Here he goes.
What the hell, really? Their thoughts are. All I know is the loudest ones online. Now, Kurt, do you know some trans people?
Yeah, I know 3 people that friends of mine that transition. Like I know before and after, and I was in New York for years. Most people aren't. They're not like this. This is a very specific. You said
they're the good trans. You see, online it's the bad trans, and the bad trans is, they're bad. They're loud and they're vocal, and they want to push their ideology. But in person, I know good trans people who know to keep their mouths shut and never question authority or marginalization. Just sit back and accept that we are allies and we know what's best, and we will always know what's best.
That memo that just came out where they the trans legal something, which is a major activist group, they found that they're not doing well with the women's sports argument.
Oh, I did see.
Yeah, it's a thing like I could have told you for free, but they probably paid $30,000 to figure it out through like polling. So this is some kind of like prepackaged like fake like activism that's not working, and the people online doing it, that's a small majority of people, most of whom nothing to do with being trans, are mentally ill people. That's what Twitter elevates that, and Instagram elevates that.
I agree.
So
are you fucking kidding me? Okay. Can we now recap for 2 seconds here? Let me just see this. Jimmy Dore just said to the trans community, this is his message, that you have to be allies or else. A lot of you, if you don't realize it, we are your allies, and if you don't, you'll turn us into enemies. The next part was about how the vast majority, because Jimmy Dore admitted he didn't have a trans friend, the vast majority of trans people online are the worst of the worst, and that they want to talk to the good trans people, right? There's good trans, of course, who aren't so uppity and won't talk back and question authority or structures of power. And then, of course, there's the bad trans online, who they have now identified as being mostly mentally ill, and Jimmy Dore agrees. So there you have it. There you have the entirety of Jimmy Dore's philosophy when it comes to the trans community. I cannot say that I'm surprised, but I will say, as a non-member of the trans community, I happen to be cis, fuck you both. Seriously, fuck you both. What is this condescending bullshit to be like, oh, we're the good allies, it's us or nothing, and if you push us away, you'll create enemies because we're not willing to learn. That's it. That's basically it, right? We're not willing to have to learn anything. I don't know. I don't want to learn about all the HRT fucking. I don't want to learn about all this. I don't want to learn about child therapy and puberty blockers and women in sports. I just come on. I'm a good ally. Just accept it.
That you meet just want to live their lives and they're not trying to like send anybody off to a separate nation of untouchables based on
they're just trying to live their lives. Well, no, they're surviving. That's the problem. Like if you're trying to be an ally, you're trying to make their lives better because they are actively being vilified in society. Like legislation is being passed against them in numerous states on a regular basis right now. It's become like the culture war topic of the year. So it's not like the good ones. They're nice and quiet. They just want to live their quiet little lives and be good trans people and not bother anybody. And then it's the ones that we consider mentally ill online. Those are the bad ones. Those are the bad ones that are, of course, trying to send us all off to some camp of deplorables. And that's how I see the world.
Small disagreements. This is like almost all social media has produced this like illusion that it's a thing.
This is the world we're living in now, that you have to apologize for taking a picture with Dave Chappelle, who, by the way, has probably the most popular comedy special of the year on Netflix, which Barack Obama sits on the board of. So shouldn't Barack Obama have to apologize?
How do you keep... it's like democratic, I don't know, like a tick or something. Like every single sentence that is talked about or mentioned, how can I weave the Democrats into this and my hatred of them? Hey, I'm no fan of the Democrats. That's really fucking weird. Why do you keep doing that every single time? It's like, hey, how was your dinner yesterday? It was very good. We went to Swiss Chalet. Oh, did you? Did you go to the same Swiss Chalet that fucking Kamala Harris is on the board of? Did you know that she has a 2% shareholder stock in that? And did she speak? Did she speak at the Swiss Chalet? I was like, no, just mainly had some turkey and gravy. It was subpar, Oh, turkey and gravy. Interesting that, hey? I've heard that the Democrats are actually trying to put like pig stocks back in. How much are they doing on the volume of like stomach linings and stuff like that? Like, I have no idea what the ever-loving fuck you're talking about, Jimmy. I just want to talk to you about my day. But how are the Democrats here? Are they in the room right now? Oh no, that clip is going to be used. Someone's going to be like, yeah, it's you, Lance. You're the rad lib dem.
For green lighting or
goddamn Canadian
being on the same platform as Dave Chappelle? How come Barack Obama gets off on this one? How come he doesn't have to pay a price for this?
How come you get off doing all this? That's the real question.
This one. Isn't he a board member of fucking Netflix? Or is it right? Doesn't he have power over at Netflix? And Dave Chappelle's the biggest comedy special at Netflix. What? How come he doesn't? But Patton Oswalt, who doesn't have any power, has to apologize for just taking a picture with him.
What the fuck are you talking about? What the ever-loving fuck you? How did you turn this into a Barack Obama conspiracy? Like Patton Oswalt wasn't like you already said that only 4% of the people who responded to his Instagram posts were negative responses. He took that to heart and he made a post that he wants to explain himself about why he's not going to end his friendship with Dave Chappelle. There was no friendship ended here. Why he's going to continue to be friends with him, despite the fact that he knows people don't like that. But why he is also an out and proud spoken advocate for pro-LGBTQ plus rights. And as a result of that, he's going to state that he's on the other side of history than Dave on this issue. That's it. Barack Obama, Hillary Clinton, they're not involved with this one.
Dave Chappelle, Patton Oswalt didn't give Dave Chappelle $60 million. That's what Netflix did.
By the way, now I know.
So wait, does that mean that Barack Obama gave Dave Chappelle money? Is that it? Because Barack Obama was on the board of Netflix not 2 seconds ago, or how does that work? Is liberal money funneling its way into Dave Chappelle? Is that a good thing or a bad thing? What's happening?
I used to write for the Chappelle Show back in the day, and I very much understand why Chappelle.
Is Barack Obama on the board of directors for Netflix? The question of whether President Barack Obama is on the Netflix board of directors sounds like something that would end up as a fact-checking site Snopes. It just sounds like a conspiracy theory. Obama is not on the board, but an associate is. A look back at Netflix company information will show the names of the board of directors. Barack Obama is not amongst them. However, Susan Rice, the former U.S. ambassador to the United Nations, is. Here's her bio. So there you go. Why didn't you mention that? That seems like conspiracy gold for you. Susan Rice, who's on the board of directors at Netflix, apparently. And so somehow they're missing to talk about that. Democrats won't mention that. Susan Rice and is obviously funding Dave Chappelle to make what is now considered to be a transphobic special. But he clearly did that because the Democrats wanted to have something to argue about. And they wanted to protest on the streets. So that's the reason there was the protest at Netflix. It had nothing to do with transphobia. This was actually a plant because Susan Rice is on the board who was paying Dave Chappelle knowing full well that he would make that special. That's exactly what's going on here. You see this?
Went to Africa, which they always pass that nonsense reason of like somebody laughed too hard at a joke. That's not why. As soon as you put yourself in the jurisdiction of these people by taking the money, you're subjected to like, it's not, slavery is too much to say, but it's like you better do what we say because we gave you this money and you're famous.
Okay, so if you haven't heard it, Dave Chappelle has explained directly, like, you know, in his own words, what happened. And he has mentioned that anecdote as being one of the catalysts. Not the only reason, obviously. Things had been going on for a while, but that was a moment that sincerely disturbed him. He was on set doing the Chappelle show, and he felt that the cast and crew who were laughing at one of the jokes he was doing weren't doing it because they were laughing at the racist implications of the joke. They were laughing at the racist characters themselves, and that deeply disturbed him and made him wonder. He had an existential crisis. Am I doing this because I'm trying to push back against these kind of things, or am I doing this just as like someone who's dancing for the people, right? As a performer. So for you to say that that story isn't in fact true is also very, very weird and fucked up. It's kind of like, hey, no, that's not what happened, okay? This is what happened. I know. I'm an authority on this.
Means you're obligated to be under the thumb of the establishment forever, basically. And Chappelle stuck his thumb in their eye, and they still have to pay. Like, that's why one thing.
So you think the whole thing happened? So you're a conspiracy, which again, all this condescension, like talking down to all these other groups as if we're the one authority on this. Trust us, we know. But you're saying that he just did it so he could give a middle finger to the studios. Then why did he film a bunch of the third season? Like that's the lost season of Chappelle. You can watch it. If you're a big Dave Chappelle fan, there's entire clips that they were filming the third season of up until they got to a point where it was just like, it was too much to him. It was not because he was trying to do some weird power move where all of a sudden he was like, yeah, I got all my money and now I can give them the middle finger and fuck off.
You should praise Chappelle. He actually muscles corporations. One guy. He had a contract with, he didn't want season 3 of Chappelle's show on. And fair and square, the contract was not Chappelle's favor. They had to do what he wanted to not look bad. Like, who else do you know who could pull that off? One guy against like Viacom or whoever.
So it's another sad day, and too bad for Patton Oswalt. I'm a big fan of his, big supporter.
Oh yeah, Patton Oswalt is just coming out as a fucking, cocked by big trans ideology here, Jimmy. That's definitely, he's the one who walks away from this looking shitty. That's all I'll say. Definitely. That's wild. Well, I mean, I guess you can throw this in the pile of like super shitty Jimmy Dore shit, is that he doesn't know the first thing about trans issues. He now openly said to the trans community, hey, by the way, if you don't want me to be an enemy, you better accept that I'm an ally, which is just really fucked up to say. And then got basically most of this wrong. Like, and not a surprise to me because he doesn't know what he's talking about, which he admits in his own fucking segment. Yeah, this whole thing was supposed to be a like, holy shit, look how far Patton Oswalt has fallen, giving in to the big Democratic establishment by apologizing for a tweet that only apparently 4 people actually had concerns about. But still, he caved into the enormous social pressure that came with making a post in which he was hugging Dave Chappelle. Garbage.
Do you enjoy the Serfs but prefer not to have to use your eyeballs? Many are saying this. Well, we've got the solution for you. It's the Serf Times in podcast form, available on most major podcasting networks now. If you enjoy it, please consider leaving a good review and feedback because it really helps the show out, apparently, and it's free, just like the podcast.
To our gods, Xander Corvus and Patton L. Just, we beseech thee to smite down our enemies. To our monarch, Tom Spiker, we are but your humble court jesters, here to amuse you. To our lords, Trevor R., we give thanks for this spit of land for us to eke out this meager existence. To our knights, Merid, Cheryl Alvarez, Ruby Kelly, Ellie Leslie, Alex P., Brandon, Words Greenwood, Nate, that one guy, Hagbird Celine, Matthew Scarborough, Stellar Vision, Ariane McCarthy, Daniel Sutton, Coulter Smith, Val 9000, Jenna Tall, Quiet 185, Anna Loves Riley, Omni, Riley and Anna, Poodlehawk, The Tim Caucus, Multimondi, Trevor Yanis, Lemmy 101, Anthropophojak, Saren 42, Catherine, Radical Maniac, Ramon Acosta, Nkosin, Violent Orchard, Sophie Baby, Political Puppy, Andreas Chiringuito, Zach Christensen, Josh Mickelson, Todd Buckingham, and Todd Lajeunesse. We raise our flag in a veil, and we salute you, our friends.